Hello, Shahraja. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to join me here for this interview. How are you?
I'm good, Ruckus. How are you, man?
Great, thank you. So, a very unique case here. I reached out to you for an interview because I saw a 2K retainer client you were talking about on the Wins channel. And after messaging you, I actually found out you're on your own marketing agency. And you actually use the real world for your employees to go through as foundational copywriting training before teaching them further. So that's something I'll like to go into a bit later. But to begin, where did your marketing agency start? How did it scale? And yeah, let's go with that.
Yeah, so around May of 2022 is when I opened my own agency. Before that, I was working a sales job at this high ticket company. We were selling a passive or alternative investments to real estate investors. And I had a team of appointment setters I was working with, but none of us were really vibing with that company. Like they weren't really pulling in numbers, and their sales process and their marketing processes both were just not that good. So we all felt like we could do something better. And I had the idea, hey, why don't we start our own company and we'll just focus our time building that instead of this. So we all left and ended up starting a marketing agency. And I kind of knew copywriting before the sales job, but my team didn't, and we didn't really have much money. So as any startup, we got innovative, and I thought, how can I teach everybody copywriting in a streamlined, simple yet powerful way on a budget, quite frankly. So I got everybody subscriptions to Hustlers University at the time, and I said, everybody go through the copywriting training, go through all of it, reverse engineer some swipe, and then after that's there, I'll teach you some of the advanced stuff. And then it actually laid a pretty good foundation.
Hmm.
They all picked it up pretty quickly.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a unique thing I haven't heard before, but seems to be a very good idea. So, I'd like to go a bit back in time to your backstory.
Sure.
What was your life like before you joined the real world, and how long before or after did you start your marketing agency in regards to that?
Yeah, so before I joined the real world, I was a broke college dropout living in my college apartment trying to make money and wasn't really working. I got that sales job and I didn't like it, so I left and I came back to my apartment and decided to start an agency. And then so shortly after I started the agency, enrolled my copywriters in the real world HU. And pretty soon after that, I mean, we started in May. I joined the I joined the real world around June, started training my copywriters, and around July they were actually starting to kind of pick it up. And then around August we got our second client. So I would say within about 2 months, yeah, around 2 months of joining the real world is when I actually started seeing results. Because while they were learning, they were still beginners. I couldn't really rely on them just yet. But around August, they started getting better, reverse engineering everything. We had sent out like 1,000 cold emails to what we thought was our market at the time. We ended up contacting a bunch of unqualified leads, but it was good learning experience and copywriting practice for them anyway. I mean, yeah, it just gave us a path and we executed it, got results. Yeah, not so far afterwards,
Hmm.
once I would say.
So you've been doing copywriting now for 8 months
Yeah, going on
or
8 months.
something like that. So, with your experience in copywriting, what level would you say the real world copywriting courses are at?
Well, that depends on the scale you measure copywriting by, but I would say it's definitely beginner friendly, and it also takes you well to like the experienced intermediate level. So like extremely advanced stuff that you would read in like a Eugene Schwartz book or David Ogilvy book, that's not there, which is good because that would just confuse the people coming in if you give them too much advanced stuff right off the bat. But you can get pretty far with just what you learn in the real world. Like
Okay.
in order to learn the stuff that's taught in the real world, without the real world, you would need to buy different copywriting courses from all of these different copywriting gurus, which The cheapest one is probably like 2K. So you'd probably have to spend like 8 to 10K just to learn all the stuff that's in the real world from other guys.
Wow. Did the community have any effect on you or on your employees?
Yeah, I would say the community was helpful because I was posting in the community for feedback around the beginning, like me personally. And then as my copywriting team was going through it, it was a useful resource because we would just look at everyone else's submissions. Part of the real world is to analyze other people's copy. So when other people submit their copy for review, go through it as well, see what they did right, see what they did wrong. That was a very iron sharpens iron type of environment. So like while I was teaching them copywriting, they were practicing, they read other people's copy too, and then they compare and they're like, oh, this one's better, this one's worse, mine is better, mine is worse. Their mind starts thinking more accurately to like what does good copy look like just through sheer volume because they got exposed to so much.
Hmm. And do you know if the wins channel had any effect on your team? Is that something they'd reference?
Just yeah, like there were times when morale was low because we had sent out a bunch of cold emails and nobody responded. And then we looked at the wins channel and some guy was like, guys, I sent out 5 cold emails today and I have 2 sales calls booked. And we're like, if this guy can do it, we can do it.
I like that. Okay, so did you use any of the other resources apart from the copywriting campus from the real world?
Yeah, I looked at the freelancing campus, which if you're starting as a copywriter, you're going to be a freelance copywriter. So the freelance campus actually helped. I've noticed a lot of the different teachings in the real world interconnect and they like kind of build off of each other. For example, like freelancing helps you get clients as a copywriter. Copywriting helps you market yourself better as a freelancer.
And now going on to your agency, would you be comfortable disclosing a monthly revenue from that agency, or is it
We're doing
confidential?
consistent 5 figures a month right now. It kind of fluctuates because I have my clients on revenue share. So based on the amount of sales they bring in that month, it can be up, it can be down, but we're doing consistent 5 figures.
Okay, fair. And now, advice for people who are considering joining the real world. If they're a non native speaker, would they still be able to learn copywriting and do well with it?
Yeah. So there's this what's the word? A superstition, I guess you could say, in the copywriting community that non-native English speakers can't write copy. And that's only true if you believe it. Because think about it, copywriting is the art of taking ideas and putting them into very simple and easy to understand words. In essence, it's just a very macro level communication on a like wide scale. So you have to be a good communicator and you have to be able to say a lot with very few words. So if your first language is in English, in order to do that, first you need to translate the idea into the words of your primary language. And then you have to take those words and translate them into English. And since things get lost in translation, that can actually make for better copy because if you say like one thing in 100 words, like let's say you're Russian and you have like 100 words to say one thing, maybe it only takes like 25 or 30 words to say the same thing in English. And part of copywriting is you want to say more with less. So the actual process of taking an idea and having to filter it through a different language can actually make you better. It might be a little bit more work, but if you do it properly, I mean, your copy will just be on point because now you have a very powerful idea that's being said in very few words. And
Hmm.
you're also less likely to use giant, exquisite, ridiculously gigantic vocabulary because that's excessive and you don't need it copywriting. Like simple is better.
Right. Very interesting perspective. I like that. And what is the youngest you've seen someone succeeding as a copywriter?
Teenage years. I mean, it really depends on how much work someone puts in. You know, it's not like an age thing. I've seen wins in the real world from someone. I don't remember how early I saw it, but I know that there's people that are like not even in their 20s making money with copywriting. I've also seen online and like a bunch of other places people making copywriting or people making money like running an ads agency on TikTok or doing copywriting services at like 16.
Hmm.
I mean, it's really just, can you produce results? Did you learn the skill and are you putting in the work?
Hmm. What are the three most insightful lessons you've learned or you've seen from the real world?
I would say, well, the first thing is definitely that everything goes together. It's like if something doesn't make sense while you're doing it, just keep doing the thing. And once you finish, it will make sense. I mean, Steve Jobs is quoted for saying, you can't always see how the dots connect looking forward, but every time you look back, the dots have always connected. So just trust that everything is going to work out somehow, even if you can't see it right now. And that was something that helped a lot. I mean, I had a similar experience while going through like the whole process of getting clients. I mean, the real world definitely helped with outbound client acquisition for me personally, because we didn't have money to run ads. So our whole process of acquiring clients was like cold outbound. Initially, we were doing cold DMs, and those suck. And then the real world gave us the idea of like, hey, let's do cold emails. And I mean, yeah, just there was a decent amount of mindset training in the real world too that helped. So one is like everything ends up connecting. And another thing I saw in the real world was like everything you learn in each of the rooms builds off itself. Like freelancing helps with copywriting, copywriting helps with freelancing. If you go into e-commerce, you have to market your product. And if you don't know anything about marketing, just learn it in the copywriting room, for example. Right? Like all of that just helps a lot. Mindset and seeing how it all connects. It's like it's one big unified thing. It's not like, you know, hope that makes sense. But
Hmm.
second thing I would say is just having the right community around you is extremely valuable, especially if you're coming from a environment that is not favoring your success. Like for example, being in a college apartment surrounded by a bunch of college students that are just interested in being degenerates, for lack of better terms, and then everyone else is doing all of that, and I'm sitting in my apartment hustling. That kind of environment is not necessarily set up to make me a millionaire. But then if I'm surrounded by like 100,000 other people that are all focused on success and making money and leveling up, that's also a good mental shift, because half of it is like the work you put in, showing up consistently, and then the other half is mindset. Like if you have a weak mindset and you're just constantly complaining and victimizing it, it's not going to do you any good. And that energy will get put into your work. So if you're around other, I mean, like people say this all the time, you're average of the people you spend the most time with. If you're around a bunch of losers, even if you're doing work, you'll still be a loser. If you're around a bunch of winners, then you'll start being a winner just based on the work you put in. And then the third thing is just work ethic is a skill. Like work ethic is not something people are just magically born with. You have to develop it, and you develop work ethic by doing work every day and then increasing the amount of work that you do every day until it just becomes second nature. Then it stops feeling like work. It just starts feeling like you're creating something.
Hmm. That encompasses my previous interviews quite well because a lot of the time it's younger guys coming in who were playing video games in their spare time, doing like anything else that they deemed as wasting their time. And then once they came into the real world, being surrounded by those type of people, having a purpose, knowledge to learn, um, and yes, time to actually dedicate productively, they started training that focus, if you can call it a skill, and it
Yeah.
increased over time. So all of those, yeah, were you phrased it very nicely with intertwining it all.
What's funny is like building your own business is very much like playing a video game. The only difference is you're leveling up a real character in the real world instead of a virtual character in a virtual world. Maybe
Hmm.
you can't shoot fire out of your hands, but you can do other things. Like you can shoot money out of your hands once you get to a certain level. So
Yeah. And what advice would you give to people who are just starting out?
one thing I would say is write down on paper the reasons why you must become successful. Not why you want to be successful, but why you must be successful. Like really do a deep dive and write down on a piece of paper at the top X amount of reasons why I must be successful. Let's say 13 reasons why I must be successful. And then write 13 reasons. And then once you write those 13 reasons, read them And then anything that does not emotionally impact you and make you feel like crying or punching a hole in the wall or some kind of intense emotional response, replace it with something that will invoke that response. And then once you have those 13 reasons, well, now you have an endless source of motivation. And you have a map of your life path, like right in front of you. Because if you don't have that, what are you going to do? You're going to waste your time doing a bunch of nonsense that does not bring you closer to your end goal. But if you have this, now every single hour that your mind is conscious, you're going to think about how can I make this happen? And then life becomes a lot better after that. So I would say definitely get clear on why you must become successful and then define what success means to you. Me, I define success as having freedom and the ability to do whatever I want, however I want, which requires a lot of money. So naturally, I need to make a lot of money in order to be successful. And then once you have this, you can kind of reverse engineer exactly what you're going to do in your life. So I'm like, how do I make a bunch of money? I need to learn high income skills. What are high income skills? Sales, copywriting, marketing, all of this. So now I'm just reversing. I reversed engineered the entire path to my success. Now I'm just executing and moving along it. Everyone should flesh out what is your version of success? Why is it absolutely necessary that you achieve it? And then just consistently put in work to like create that reality every single day. Because what else are you going to do? Like
Hmm.
you only have one life, you only have so much time. What are you going to spend your time doing? You're going to build someone else's reality, or are you going to just waste it, or are you going to build the exact reality that you want to experience? Choice is
Yeah,
ultimately yours.
very profound. Thank you. And to end off, what is your vision for the next 6 months to 1 year for yourself?
Now that our company is profitable and scaling, I am I'm very excited for the future. I plan to relocate to Dubai around summertime, possibly sooner. And I'm scaling the marketing department of my agency right now, and I'm going to build a sales team. Once all of that is in place, I'm actually going to start taking all of the cash flow I'm producing, and then instead of like spending it on a bunch of degenerate stuff, I'm going to build another company with all the cash flow. I'm going to make a software company, a tech company. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create marketing software that makes the actual process of marketing and advertising easier, simpler, and more effective. Just that one, I have an extreme competitive advantage over every other marketer in my niche. And it's two, now I have a new product that I can sell to other companies for an extremely high price. And I'm very excited about that because one, AI is like developing. So I'm actually going to be able to make some really good software pretty fast, relatively easily. And two, most softwares kind of suck. Like there's not enough good software out there, especially in like companies, marketing software, especially.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, with all of that, I'm very excited for that. And the best part is software is its own industry. It's like either you know how to create a good software product or you know how to do business. Very rarely do you know how to do both. I'm one of the few people that knows how to do both. I know how to market and sell, and I'm going to learn how to create software. So anything I create, I can just take the skills I've acquired, the process of building this agency, and I can just drive sales to basically any product. I can market it, I can sell it, I can basically make any company that I ever decide to start profitable from the get-go, and I don't need any investors or any of that nonsense.
Very interesting. And to hold you accountable, I'd like to do a part two to this interview and let's
For
say
sure.
6 months, maybe a bit longer, to see how that comes into fruition. Well, where can people contact you to find out more or to see what you're doing?
Yeah, if you guys want to contact me, you can send me a DM on Instagram. My Instagram is King of Scaling, just KingofScaling, King of Scaling, just one word.
Yeah, I'll add that to the description of the video. Shahraja, thank you very much for, again, for your time. Really appreciate it. I know you're a busy man, so I'll leave you
Well,
be. I wish you all the best and goodbye.
thank you. Take care, man.